Welcome to Central Missouri Alumni Stories. I'm your host, Corey Bittner. I'm thrilled today to be joined by our special guest, Shannon McClendon. Shannon is the Public Relations Manager at the American Nurses Association in our nation's capital. All right, Shannon. Yeah, thanks for joining me here today. How are you doing?
I'm really good today. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How is life in our nation's capital right now?
It is busy, but just like everybody else, we're trying to get through this pandemic and just pushing through and ready for this to be over. So, and we're getting good weather, spring, the cherry blossoms.
It's nice,
so,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great this time of year. Just generally speaking, it feels like, it's kind of like a fresh start, rebirth in some ways. But
yes.
I assume that you have been and are continuing to work remotely.
Yes. The last time I was in the office was March 13th. I remember it to the day. And ever since that day, we have been teleworking. So just trying to stay safe.
How's that gone? How's it been for you? I mean, it's a big adjustment, right? Going from working in an office to working from home and trying to, maintain functionality and everything you're doing. How's it been for you?
It was an adjustment at first because I tend to like going in the office. I like, face-to-face meetings. You can get so much done just being able to walk past somebody's desk and ask them a quick question. So it was kind of an adjustment in the beginning, but I'm fortunate the association, they sent us monitors. I got a desk set up. So, I settled in for the ride.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, again, thank you for being here today. And I'm excited, to kind of hear your story and have you share it with our audience. For our audience, that is, whether you are watching the video on YouTube or listening to the audio, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. That way you'll never miss new episodes of the show as it is released. But to get in, my shameless plug there, Shannon. So to get into, your story, why don't we just start with, obviously you're in DC now, but where things started for you. Where did you grow up?
I am a born and raised Kansas Cityan. Okay. So I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas. There's a difference, right?
There is a difference.
About that. No shade to Kansas. And, went to elementary school, high school, middle school, all of that. And then, my dad is actually an alumni of CMSU because it was CMSU at the time that he was
Very
there.
Cool.
And so I always knew about CMSU growing up in UCM because it's down the road. It's a state school. A lot of my friends who had graduated before me in high school went there and applied. And so it was just a natural fit just to not be too far from home, but still get that experience of still being away. I feel like it's the perfect sweet spot.
I think so too, especially for people in the Kansas City area. And I don't know if you knew this, Shannon, but UCM has CMSU, UCM, Central Missouri, whatever we would call it. The university has around somewhere between 110 and 120,000 alumni globally, but 60,000 of them are in the Kansas City area.
Oh, wow. I did not know that breakdown. I didn't know the global part either. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. But obviously a huge presence here in the Kansas City area. So with your dad, being an alum and some friends of yours being an alum, was it when you were in high school, was it ever a question of where you were going to go? Or did you feel pretty well set on UCM?
I was looking at different options. Of course, like I'm assuming all of us do when we're seniors in high school. Do we go away? Do we go far away? So I had considered, going maybe to some schools in New York on the East Coast. I've always loved the East Coast. Do I go more Southern? But then, UCM, it was just natural. I don't know. Maybe because I was surrounded by alumni. I grew up in a house with an alumni. I remember seeing the mail come home from CMSU. So in the end, it was just natural and it felt right. So.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good. When you went off to school, did you know that you were going to study PR?
I didn't. I actually had no idea what I was going to do. I knew I liked writing. I am not good at math or science. So I looked at a couple of programs at UCM and then decided that, PR would be a good fit for me.
So did you make that decision when you were a freshman?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
made that decision when I was a freshman. Yep.
So let's,
And oh, go ahead.
no, please continue.
And I was going to say, I don't know if the program is still set up like this, but you also had to have a minor. And so I chose the minor. I think it's textiles and fashion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Kind of fashion, but I feel like the two degrees kind of complement each other, because in the fashion department, there's a lot of branding and images. So kind of was like a nice marriage.
Yeah. Interestingly, it seems like I've talked with another number of alumni that studied PR, but also had, an interest in the fashion world. So it's interesting to hear that was kind of the route that you went too. So tell me a little bit, Shannon, about your experience, at UCM and in the PR program specifically.
Yeah, I had a wonderful experience at UCM. I was close to home. I had friends there that I knew. So, I would imagine if you're going away to school, you might not, everyone's a stranger, but
Right.
going to UCM, there were familiar faces. So it felt immediately and instantly very familiar. I really loved my program and my courses at UCM. I will always remember the Horns, Trisha and Adam Horn. I thought that they did an incredible job with the program. I really do feel like I got a lot of real world experience and hands-on experience because they were in the field. I remember Adam specifically, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but I think he would do PR for the Speedway, the racetrack. So he was in the field and he was doing things. And so having people that are teaching you that have the experience was really invaluable. And just, I remember there being a really strong focus on being strategic. And in the PR industry, that's something that has kind of caught up with us. And not that we weren't strategic, but I do remember there was heavy emphasis on strategy, which is something that I really carried with me into the real world as well.
I studied, whether or not you knew this, Shannon, I also studied PR during my time at UCM. And you're right. There was the focus on strategy, the focus on specific tactics. And as I've spoke about with other guests on the show previously, there was very much, from my perspective, I felt like it was a program and a degree that helped you learn how to be resourceful, how to, pay attention to detail. Very important, right? Yeah. Pay attention to detail. And I just think the expectations were high, but I think that's a good thing because you were learning from somebody in the field, right? A professional who's actually doing, and not that there's anything wrong with professors or teachers who don't or haven't, but having the opportunity to learn from someone who is a professional in the field that you're studying, I think they understand how high the stakes can be and what expectations are once somebody's out of school and in the workforce. And I think that translated nicely to the actual program for students.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember we did an exercise. I think it was a media course. It had to have been a media course where we were doing a press conference. And Adam, and to your point, the bar of excellence was high, but I appreciate that.
Yes.
And he made it real. And he told me, I'm going to ask you some questions. You're a woman of color, and we're gonna make this a real experience. And I appreciated that. So I do agree with you. There was a bar of excellence that was in the program.
Definitely. Was that the class where it was, I don't know if it was called crisis communication, but I do remember the press conference you're referring to. I remember going through the exercise where you're in a group and basically assigned a crisis case. And you had to present as if you were giving a press conference on that and field questions from Adam Horn, from the rest of the class. Is that the same class? Okay.
Yeah, I remember it vividly. Yes.
Do you remember what the subject matter was or what the case study was? I'm just curious.
I feel like it had to deal with like a sexual assault case. Like it was very like scandal, like Olivia Pope, looking back on it. So there was it was real world. Like those are the things that, depending on the industry you go into, that's real life. So
I know. I remember the program or the assignment for myself and our group was the Duke lacrosse team and the sexual assaults charges, allegations. Did you have the same?
That's what it was. Yes.
Talk about a tough subject, right? Something. And I remember vividly, it was, you were to deliver this press conference as if it was, 12 to 24 hours after the reports came out. So you had very limited information that you could use, because obviously we know more now, but you couldn't use that.
Yeah. It was that one. And that's like a timeless case study. Like it's so
I know.
relevant. Yeah. Yes.
It really is. So so let me ask you this. When you think back to your time at UCM and the PR program, whether it's the PR program or not, I'm just curious for you, obviously you've had a lot of success doing a lot of exciting things now, which we're going to get to here in a moment. But the question I have for you is, when you look back on that, what were some of the biggest challenges for you?
In terms of like the coursework and just being at UCM?
Yeah, or just, generally speaking, if it was, if it was cultural, if it was adjusting to being to a new place. I mean, what if you try to reflect back on that now, what were some of the biggest challenges associated with being at UCM, doing what you were doing, being away from home?
Yeah. So I would say, I think for the first time, because I went to a high school and my middle school where it was, predominantly African-American or Black.
Sure.
And so being the only Black student in some of my classes was an adjustment. I would say, just even though I wasn't too far away from home, just being away. And I think everyone kind of, when they go to college, you're responsible for yourself, your work.
Yep.
And so getting adjusted to, you are held accountable, even if they didn't tell you there was an assignment due. If the syllabus said that the assignment is due, it was due and you missed it if you didn't do it. So I think that too played a role, just getting adjusted to that, because I had some wonderful teachers in high school. But, it's a little bit more hands-on when you're in high school. And then when you get to college, I feel like there's a sharp switch to kind of that real world piece. There's no gray. You graduate.
You got to grow up, right?
Yes.
we all do.
Yeah, you got to be in charge of your schedule. You've got to manage your time. And so I think adjusting there, like the time management piece, would be the other piece that was probably a struggle for me in the beginning. And I had to get my rhythm.
And I bet that's hard. I mean, I would imagine that's still very difficult for almost every child that goes off, I say child, but, young adult that goes off to college, right? I mean, it's tough because you're right. It doesn't matter why you didn't get something done or what an excuse is, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is you're going to be held accountable for what you do or don't do. And it's going to shine through.
Absolutely.
Very transformative time, for a lot of people. So when you graduated from UCM, what was your first job? Well, actually, first, let me ask that question. What was your first job out of college?
So my first job out of college, I actually worked at Sprint Center. I think it is now T-Mobile Center.
It is.
Yep. And I graduated, May, June, and I got that job in July. And I was in the marketing department, and I actually did group sales. So my job was to sell tickets to family shows and sporting events to groups of like 10 or more. So it did involve a lot of communication, a lot of marketing. Really getting creative because it was sales and, looking at the show. And that's where I think UCM really prepared me, because I was able, fresh out of college, to look at these shows like Sesame Street. And I know it seems probably very elementary, but you have to imagine like someone fresh out of college and say, who are these target audiences? Well, I want to go for daycares. I want to go to mom groups. Where are these mom meetups? We even had really niche shows. Like there was a show called the Lipizzaner Stallions, and it was like these specialized horses. And I'm like, who in the world?
Sure.
Are there horse riding groups? Are there, horse clubs, the 4-H groups? So really just being strategic and applying those skills, even though I wasn't quite yet in media relations, like in the traditional sense, I was still able to apply the principles about strategy and target audiences and tactics to that job.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because it is I'm sure there's obviously a unique set of challenges probably associated with what you were doing, but it just seems like, again, another piece of feedback, and I'll share this with you because I've interviewed a number of alumni that have studied all different programs, but some of the folks that studied PR, it seems like, day one and whatever it is that they were doing once they graduated college, they could apply what they learned right then and there. And you could actually, add value to an organization early on.
Yeah, absolutely. That Lipizzaner Stallion show, they were really, we didn't sell that many tickets, but the fact that we sold the number that we did was really good. So I was proud of that.
Yeah, no, you should be. It sounds like it. If I were tasked with that same challenge, I don't know where I would start. So I would share that with you. So let's talk then about so you started at the Sprint Center,
Mhm.
now T-Mobile Arena, I think is what it's called, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
besides
think
the
so,
point.
yeah.
What, how did you start there, and
Mhm.
how did you move from there to Washington, D.C., where you're at now?
Yeah.
Now you're obviously in the trade association world,
Yeah.
with the American Nurses Association, public relations manager. Tell me about, that move.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always had a soft spot for healthcare, and crediting UCM again, my internship in college was with Children's Mercy Hospital.
Okay.
And it was an incredible internship. And that's where I really realized I like healthcare. It felt like I was making an impact, even though I'm not a doctor, I'm not on the front lines of healthcare. I could write about it, and I could tell these stories, and I could translate these really complex topics and issues to consumers and patient groups. So I started there, and then, I accepted the job at Sprint Center because it was really a good opportunity.
Sure.
And I was at Sprint Center for about 2 years. And then I took a position at Cerner Corporation and loved it. Like, I was in the marketing communications department, got to work on the Cerner Health Conference. And then an opportunity presented itself with Cerner in DC. So Cerner was starting what they called the Bear Institute, and it was at Children's National Health System. So I got back into that, pediatric world as well. And so I applied, I was an internal candidate, I accepted the offer, and then that brought me out to the DC area. And
the East Coast, which you always loved, right?
I always loved it. I always loved it. Things come back full circle. And I stayed with Cerner for about 2 years when I got out here. And then I went to a PR agency, which was also focused in health and wellness. And there I got to really get that agency experience. And people who have worked at agencies know exactly what I'm talking about.
Drinking from the fire hose, huh?
But it's worth it. It makes you a strong PR professional. And I got to work with clients like Sam's Club, the Aetna Foundation, Medtronic, Walmart Foundation. So I spent some time there, and I really learned during my time at the agency that I'm an in-house girl. I like to focus on one brand, one topic, and really dig into it. And there are some people that love agency and they're great at it. And so an opportunity presented itself with the American Nurses Association, and I took it, and here I am, and the rest is history.
So yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing all of that context. So you went from, Sprint Center to Cerner, you going down the healthcare route that took you out to DC, got the agency experience. You've done a lot, and now you're at, for a young early career, you've done a lot. But now, obviously, being with the American Nurses Association as a public relations manager, can you share with the audience what does that mean, right? What do you on a, generally speaking, on a day-to-day basis? And I'm sure it all changes very much every day. But what would you kind of highlight of what your primary responsibilities are?
So I lead a team. I have a PR specialist, Kezia Proctor, she's amazing, and a communication specialist, Zachary Levine, and we make up a small PR team, but mighty. And we field media requests. So we get an influx of requests coming into our newsroom. And it can be everything from a trade to Good Morning America, to MSNBC, to CNN, on an array of topics. So we field media requests. We also work on campaigns and different initiatives, like Nurses Month is coming up in May. So my team is managing the earned media strategy and some different pieces for that campaign. I don't know if people know this, but it's the Year of the Nurse. So we work on different campaigns and initiatives.
Right? After last year.
Yeah. Also, a lot of just proactive pitching. We do a lot of editorial pitching where we look at the editorial calendars of different consumer facing news outlets and magazines. And we just try to get nurses and the profession infused in these really big, topics and conversations that are going on in the world. And it's not hard because, healthcare is everywhere, and nurses are the largest profession and obviously a big, important piece of the healthcare system.
Yeah, that's very cool. It sounds like an engaging, fun, challenging, interesting, interesting role and business to be in. Now, help me understand. So the American Nurses Association is the idea that, hospitals or health systems, those are the ones that are part of the association.
So the American Nurses Association is a member organization, nonprofit. And our members are primarily registered nurses. And
Okay.
so we have a large membership base. We also have a philanthropic arm that gives out research funds, grants, gifts, scholarships to nurses. And then we also have a credentialing arm, the American Nurses Credentialing Center,
Okay.
which is the gold standard in nursing credential. And they credential nurses, and they also designate different health systems who exemplify excellence in nursing.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. What's your favorite part of your job?
I guess my favorite part is really being able to make a difference and being able to weigh in on important issues.
Yeah.
We weigh in on gun violence. We weigh in on critical social justice issues like racism and discrimination.
Yep.
Obviously, COVID-19, and pushing for vaccines and everyone to get the opportunity to get a COVID test. And now we're in this part of the pandemic where, to get vaccinated. Just the wide range of issues and the positions and the vision aligning kind of with what I believe is a really nice synergy. And I feel very blessed to kind of have found a sweet spot there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there, everybody has had to think about the pandemic, right? I'm sure at least once a day for the last year or so. Yeah. You've probably had to think, give it even more thought than the average person.
Yes.
Can you share with me what that's been like?
It's been really fast paced. I was talking to my colleague Kezia, and we were thinking back to May when we were fielding like hundreds of media requests, and really being the voice for nurses. And it's just been super busy, but, important work. And You can look back on it when you're in it, it's just crazy. But when you look back on it, it's really remarkable to see that you touched something unprecedented. Like we've never seen anything like this in our life. So it was a lot of learning lessons, going with the flow, being flexible, like, things were changing, CDC guidelines would change overnight.
Right.
There was a couple of occasions where that happened. Prepping media spokespeople. We really geared up and accelerated our prep for media spokespeople.
But you had to, yeah.
So just a lot of learning lessons on the fly and being flexible and just going with it.
Yeah, that's very cool. I have, it's such a tremendous amount of respect for people in the healthcare industry, just generally speaking. But, in regards to what you're doing, nurses, that, the folks that you are, trying to help give a voice to and, to bring front and center. It's one of those things where it's bizarre or it's crazy to think about over the last year that, whether it's doctors, nurses, anyone in the healthcare field, yourself, right? And your organization, trade association, right? Nobody signed up for what everyone's had to deal with, right? It's okay. It, almost like a punch in the face, like, okay, here you go. Here's what you're going to have to deal with every single day for the foreseeable future. And you're just going to have to power through and grind and persevere and do what it takes. But you probably can look back now on the last year and think, wow, it's pretty remarkable, everything that, you and your team have accomplished and the things you've done and what you've been through.
Yeah, it is. We actually submitted for a couple of industry awards.
Awesome.
And that was a great exercise. I think that is when I realized, wow, we did a lot.
We did a lot. Yeah, I bet you did.
Forgot. Yeah. So we started out, I remember it was maybe the end of February. We started tracking the COVID-19 once it hit the US. And we had this on-call schedule. And I look back at it and I'm like, we had no idea
what you didn't know what was coming. Yeah, I know. Nobody did, I don't think.
Nobody did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I remember having a friend. I have a friend who's in the Navy, and he was stationed in Italy, and he was sending videos and pictures and updates to a group chat back here in the United States because obviously COVID-19 spread beyond Asia to Europe first before it made its way here. And I remember him basically pleading to a group of friends in this text message, like, you guys need to go out there and make sure that people understand what is coming, and it's only going to be a matter of time. And all of us, in some ways, we were probably ignorant, and it's like, oh, well, that's an issue or a challenge over there, but it's not going to be that way here. But you're right. March 13th, I feel like, is the day that it got very real for everyone because there was so much that happened that day.
Yes.
And it was so like there was a decade of a decade of news and happenings. I mean, every
Yes.
week. It's like we had, I don't know how many different news cycles happened. It seemed like in like a month. I mean, it just, there was periods where time just felt like it crawled by. And then there was periods where it was like somebody pressed the fast forward button.
Agree. Yeah, March 13th is a pivotal day. And what was it? The World Health Organization declared a pandemic on, what was it, March 11th? So I was thinking
right around there.
We have 9/11 now. Will 3/11, I don't know, become?
Yeah, no, I know, because it was, that happened. And then, there was a travel ban to Europe. And and for a lot of people, I think a lot of people, when the NCAA tournament and the NBA season got canceled, people were like, oh my gosh, this thing is real.
Yes, I remember that. And you were right. They were coming back to back. I would check my email. It would say this conference is canceled. In NHL canceled. Yeah.
Wild times. Well, anyway, it's in some ways too, it's remarkable to think about where we're at 1 year later.
Yes, we made it. Well,
yes, we're making it, right. I think the light, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
We are, and I'm ready. Wrap it up, COVID.
Yeah. Shannon, you and me both. Good. So let me ask you then, I appreciate you sharing all of that with me, and God bless you and your team and all the healthcare workers for everything you guys have done and have had to deal with. But when we sort of zoom back out and just think more big picture and more broadly speaking, for you and your career, what do you think's next? Where do things go from here? And I'm not, I'm just curious, when you think about your future, what does that look like?
I definitely think being in a position where I'm still able to touch real world issues. I do foresee myself probably staying in the association nonprofit arena, because you can kind of weigh in on those important real world issues and join some really meaningful conversations. I don't know what the future holds. Right now, I have this saying that I keep saying to myself, be still. I'm kind of at a point where I'm just kind of riding it and enjoying the moment and really taking everything in. But I would say that being in a field where I can make a difference and an impact, so probably healthcare, social justice, would probably still be in my future.
Good. I like that. Be still, be present. Yeah, that's, I think that's good advice for all of us, and whatever it is that people are doing, because right now we're in some ways, we're still sort of living in this Groundhog Day world, right? But we're, eventually we'll get out on the other side of this, and hopefully some of the lessons that we've all learned, we can, take those into life beyond COVID.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, good. Well, thank you, Shannon. And I, we're about out of time here, but before we wrap it up, I did want to take you through the fun segment of the show here, designed to be the fun segment. I don't know if you've seen any of the other episodes, but what I have, basically what the last segment of the show is called is what I was calling the Mule Minute. And then I had a guest who called it the Jenny Jam, which I like. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rattle through some questions. And I would, it's going to be broadly speaking. There's no stopwatch. There's no, there's no clock, anything like that. But I'm just curious to hear, what's the first answer off the top of your head?
Okay.
You think you can do it?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Right, I think you can do it too. I'll start with an easy one. What is your favorite destination or favorite place to travel?
Paris.
I like it. What is your, obviously in a stressful job and a career, especially over the last year or so, what's the best way for you to unwind or just relax?
Recently in the pandemic, I have subscribed to every magazine that I can subscribe to. So just sitting down on the couch, even Southern Living. I'm not a Southern woman.
Yeah.
But I'm subscribed to it. So really just, coming, sitting on the couch and turning off the news and reading the magazine.
I like it. That's good. What, if you could go back in time to any time period in history, when would you go back to? What would you be most interested in?
Ooh, I would go to the Harlem Renaissance. That was the period. It was kind of the roaring 20s, but it was up in New York. And, that was the age of the Black jazz musicians and the Cotton Club. So I think that would be cool.
Good answer. I like that. Very cool. What, what is what's one of the best decisions that you feel like you've made professionally? And I know that's kind of a hard question to just ask you to come up with an answer off the top of your head.
Yes. I think moving out here, taking a leap of faith, and that has been one of the best decisions professionally and personally. Like it really pushes you to step outside your comfort zone and, get in there and learn and step outside of your comfort zone and try things that you never tried. So I would say taking a leap of faith and moving out to the DC area.
And making a big move. Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you could give a try, well, let me put it a different way. If you were in if you could be in any industry other than the one you're in, another profession, what would you love to try?
I would still like to do PR, but I would like to do it for a museum, like an art gallery. So maybe something more in the art world.
Okay. All right. I like it. What, if you were to walk, here's a fun one for you. If you were to walk into an establishment and they had a karaoke machine and you had to sing one song, what would be your go-to song?
Ooh, probably something by Aretha Franklin. Like You're All I Need to Get By. I sing that a lot in the shower. I was home for the holidays and my cousins were like, shut up.
Yeah. We're all best at singing in the shower, right?
Yeah. So something by Aretha Franklin, I think I would jam out too.
I like it. Okay, good. And then lastly, you may have already answered this in some ways, but I'm going to ask the question a little bit more explicitly. If you could give just one piece of advice to someone, whether it was me, whether it was someone who's getting ready to graduate college, or whatever it might be, somebody who's getting ready to go off to college, what is one piece of advice that you would share with someone else that's been helpful for you in your life?
Be open to trying new things. In my career, I am not above trying a new project or something that might not be totally in my professional realm.
Sure.
But all those experiences make you a very well-rounded professional. So, be open to new experiences, try new things. I think you can learn from everybody. I would say when you're selecting a mentor, sometimes it's helpful to get a mentor who's not in your industry, because I think they can give you some good perspective. Like, if it's someone in your industry, that's awesome. But I would just say, be open, try new things, say yes more than you say no.
Yep. I like it. Say yes, embrace the challenge.
Yes.
That is very good. That is good. Well, thank you, Shannon. Again, this has been, it's been a pleasure. And I know we could, probably talk another hour or two, but I appreciate you taking the time here to talk today and, contributing to Central Missouri alumni stories. And you obviously have a great story and have had a great career, and I'm sure we'll continue to have a great career. But, thank you for all the work that you and your organization have done in the midst of the pandemic that a lot of us probably can't even really grasp or get our arms around, probably what you guys have had to deal with over the last year or so. But again, thank you for taking the time to join me here today. And for the, for the rest of our audience at home, again, please make sure that, that you're subscribed to the show. If you have any questions, anybody out there, if you have any questions, concerns, feedback, thoughts, potential guests for the show, I'm all open and, I'm all ears. So please, make sure folks, reach out to me directly. You can find me on, Facebook or Twitter, or Facebook or LinkedIn, I guess I should say. You can just search my name, Corey Bittner. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is the same. It's just at Corey Bittner KC. But again, Shannon, thank you again for your time. I do appreciate it. And I hope that you have a great day and look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, thank you for having me. You have a great day too.